Hey guys, Mr. T here, just doing a video for the solutions to your practice 2024 mainstream quadratics test. So this is heavily cut down, like I've been telling you in class, sort of to match with your level of ability and your previous experience in semester 1. We need to get through this material, but I understand your situation, so I'll make it a little easier for you without missing anything that I'm required to teach you. So this is an idea of what could go into your cheat sheet. Please have the equations in the form of x squared is equal to k rule that you're given. So if x squared is equal to k, then you've got 3 different options for x. The null factor law is a big one. If you've got 2 things multiplied by each other equals 0, then either of those 2 things could be 0. I'd like you to try solving by factorization, because I was taught, you can see it on YouTube, make the right-hand side equal 0 by rearrangement. Try to factorize using common factors, difference between 2 squares, perfect squares, and then sum and product rule. And once factorized, you use null factor law to solve that. Your last resort, although in your case, I'm allowing you to answer any of the questions using the quadratic formula and get full marks, although that's not normally the case. So if your quadratic equation is written in that form and it equals 0, then you work out what a, b, and c are, plug it into the formula, solve for x, and then you have your answers. Then the last thing you need to do in this test is drawing quadratics with a table of values. So you need to make sure you identify and write your quadratic to be graphed in this form. Notice that it equals y. Then what do? You substitute the value of x in your table of values. So this is what a table of values looks like, except ignore the purples for now. You're finding that. So substitute the values of x, all of these one after the other, into your equation and solve for y each time. And then you put all these values of y into the table and plot the points that you get. So for example, this is my equation here. My first value of x in the table of values was 0. So I plug that wherever x is. So you can see here, x is equal to 0. X is equal to 0. So we go 0 squared is 0, plus 2 lots of 0 plus 1. You get 1. That solution for y goes into the table of values. Do the same thing again for 1. Plug it in. Solve. 2. Plug it in. Solve, etc. You do that for all 5. And then you get a bunch of y's. And then you can plot these points onto a grid. So that's what could go on your cheat sheet. Let's answer these now. Solve for x using the method for equation in the form x squared is equal to k. So in this case, you shouldn't use the quadratic formula because it's just going to make it harder. You've got negative x squared plus 11 equals 0. It doesn't equal, it's not x squared is equal to k yet, so we need to make it look like that. The opposite of 11 is negative 11. Get rid of the negative sign. So what's the opposite of timesing by negative 1? Divide both sides by negative 1. And so that's going to leave you with x squared is equal to 11. And so with the rule, because 11, the k is greater than 0, x is going to be plus or minus the square root of 11. This one doesn't look much like x squared is equal to k, but we can rearrange. The opposite of positive 7 is negative 7, so you're going to get negative 32 on the right-hand side. The opposite of timesing by negative 2 in front of the x squared is dividing by negative 2. That cancels, so you're going to get x squared is equal to 16. K is greater than 0, so that's the form of the rule, plus or minus the square root of 16. And 16 is a square number, so your answer is going to be plus or minus negative 4. Here it looks weird, but it's still an x squared is equal to k. K is greater than 0, so it's going to be x take 4 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 25. 25 is a square number, so you've got the x take 4 on the left-hand side after we've removed the squared is equal to plus or minus 5. And then the opposite of taking 4 is adding 4, so you've got 4 plus or minus 5 So x is equal to 4 plus 5, 9, or 4 take 5, negative 1. This one here, you're using the x squared is equal to k law again. The other side is less than 0, so straight away you're going to answer x is equal to no real solutions. Right? Can I remind you why? It is because as soon as you see x squared is equal to k, and that k is less than 0, so a negative number, x has no real solutions. Solve for x using null factor law. So we have something times by something else is equal to 0. So that first something, a, could be 0, or the second something, x plus 3, could be 0. A equals 0 is done. No, it's not a, it's x. Sorry, my bad. X could be 0, or x plus 3 could be 0. This is done. There's more solving to do here. The opposite of adding 3 is taking 3. So x is equal to negative 3. Here, it looks harder, but it's not. You've got something times by something else times by something else equals 0. The law still applies. A could equal 0. No, it can't equal 0. And it's not a, it's negative 5. Negative 5 can't equal 0 because we know negative 5 is not equal to 0, so we ignore that one. Or the x take 1, which is b, x take 1 could equal 0. That's not done yet. The opposite of a taking 1 is adding 1, so x could equal 1. Or 3 take x equals 0. Opposite of positive 3 is negative 3. Negative x is equal to negative 3. If negative x is equal to negative 3, then x is equal to 3. This one here, you need to remember that squaring anything is the same as timesing by itself. So 2x takes 7, 2x takes 7 equals 0. And so this is a case of a times by b times by c equals 0, which is still null factor law. That's telling us that 3 is equal to 0, which it can't be, so we ignore that. Or 2x takes 7 equals 0. Not done yet there. The opposite of taking 7 is adding 7. Opposite of timesing by 2 is dividing by 2. 7 on 2. Which is or 3.5. That's your answer there. Why, Mr. T, are you not doing this one? Well, it would be exactly the same. 2x takes 7 equals 0 is the same. Okay? So that's that. Solve for x by first factorizing and then using null factor law. So I'm going to show it the proper way first. Numbers that I can times together to get 21, 1, and 21, 3, and 7. That pair is going to get me negative 4. If I have 3 take 7, so factorize is going to be x plus 3, x takes 7, and it equals 0, as you can see from there. It's null factor law now, so x plus 3 equals 0, or x takes 7 equals 0. So x is equal to negative 3, or x is equal to 7 are your answers there. Now, you're getting the option. You're allowed to use quadratic formula if you want, if that's all you can remember. So in this case, what's in front of x squared? 1. What's in front of x? Negative 4. What is the number by itself? C is negative 21. So the quadratic formula, x is equal to negative b, so negative 4, plus or minus the square root of b squared, negative 4 squared, take 4 lots of a, which was 1, c, which was negative 21, over 2 lots of a, which was 1. Negative 4 is 4, plus or minus the square root of 16 So do some extra working up here. 16. Negative 4 times by 1 is negative 4. 4 times by 21. 16 plus 84 at the top. So under the square root is going to be 100. 2 times 1 is 2. X is equal to 4 plus or minus 100 is square root of 100 is 10 over 2. So that's actually 4 plus 10 is 14 over 2, or 4 take 10, negative 6 over 2. So that is 7, or negative 6 over 2, negative 3. Those are your two possible answers. X is equal to negative 7. Oh, sorry, X is equal to 7 or negative 3. Solve by factorizing. First, no common factor, no common factor. But it's two square numbers. You've got difference of two squares here. You've got 2x squared, take 5 squared is equal to 0. So that factorizes to 2x plus 5, 2x minus 5 equals 0. So null factor law now, 2x plus 5 equals 0, or 2x minus 5 equals 0. 2x is equal to negative 5, or 2x is equal to 5. Continue the working out there. X is equal to negative 5 on 2, or 5 on 2. So x is equal to negative 2.5, or 2.5. I could accept the fractions as well. Quadratic formula way, well, your a is equal to 4. Your b is nothing. Your c is negative 25. So if you use the quadratic formula for this, x is equal to negative b, which was 0, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which was 0. Take 4 lots of a, which was 4, and c, which was negative 25, over 2 lots of a, which was 4. What does that come to? Negative 0 plus or minus. I'm going to do the working out. Under the square root, 0. Negative 4 times 4, negative 16. You've got 400. Over 2 times by 4 is 8. Is there a square root of 400? It's 20, so plus or minus 20 over 8. So you've got 20 divided by 8 is 2.5. So it's either positive, so x is equal to positive 2.5, or negative 2.5, like you got using the proper way. They're the same. Up to you if you want to use quadratic formula or not. Factorizing common factors, no. Not perfect, not difference of two squares, not perfect squares. So sum and product, 199 are never going to get me 2x. What's the only other thing? 9 and 11? Yep, 9 and 11 is going to get me 2. If I go negative 9 plus 11, so factorize, it's going to be x take 9, x plus 11 equals 0. So x take 9 equals 0, or x plus 11 equals 0. So x is going to be 9, or x is going to be negative 11. Those are your answers. Doing the proper way, but I'm showing you the quadratic formula option. What is your A? A is equal to 1, B is equal to 2, C is equal to negative 99. So plug that into the quadratic formula, negative 2, because B was 2. 2 squared, take 4 lots of A, which was 1, C, which is negative 99, over 2 lots of A, which was 1, negative 2. Let's work out what was under the square root. 4 times negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. 396 plus 4, that's going to be square root of 400 again, over 2 times 1, which is 2. We already established that square root of 400 was 20, so negative 2 plus or minus 20 over 2. So that is x is equal, what's negative 2 plus 20? That's 18 over 2. Or negative 2 take 20, negative 22 over 2. So x is equal to 9 or negative 11, which is what we got the proper way. Factorize, well, I can see here that negative 2 goes into everything, so remember that as a factor, x squared. 18x divided by negative 2, negative 9x, negative 40. Negative 40 divided by negative 2 is positive 20, equals 0. Factorize what's in the brackets, no common factors, not difference between 2 squares, not perfect squares, so sum and product, 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5 is what's going to get me negative 9. It's going to be negative 4, take 5. So this fully factorized is going to be x take 4, x take 5 equals nothing. We got null factor law. We would normally say negative 2 is equal to 0, but we know that's not the case. Or now we've got x take 4 equals 0, or x take 5 equals 0. So x is going to be 4 in the first case, or x is going to be 5 in the second case. That's using the proper way, but now showing you quadratic formula. A is negative 2, B is 18, C is negative 40. So plug that in. X is negative 18 plus or minus the square root of 18 squared. Take 4. So this is probably a case where the quadratic form is going to make it harder than it needs to be. But I'm giving you the option, so I'm going to show you the whole thing. Okay? Over 2 lots of A, negative 2. X is equal to negative 18 plus or minus. Ooh, this is going to be a big one. 18 squared is 324. I'm going to do the working out up here. 324. 8 times by negative 40, negative 320. So in the square root, you're going to have 324 take 320, square root of 4 over 2 times negative 2, negative, not negative 2, negative 4. Square root of 4 is a nice number. It's 2. So you have negative 18 plus 2 is negative 16 over negative 4. Or negative 18 take 2, negative 20 over negative 4. So x is going to be 4 or 5. Right, that's that done. So again, this quadratic formula is an option for you. You should try this because it was taught. and you had to practice it. Well, you were asked to practice it. There's no you had to anymore these days. But this is an option that I told you. If all you can do is solve by quadratic formula, you can try it. But I think this looks simpler than this. Solve for x using any appropriate method, excluding the quadratic formula. So that was a requirement for the people doing the full test. But you can solve using quadratic formula if you want. I'll give you the full marks for that. I'll show you the proper way. First, I need to make it equal 0 anyway. Opposite of taking 24 is adding 24. So solving the proper way. No common factors across all, not difference between two squares, not perfect squares, sum and product. 1, 24, 2, 12. 3 and 8 is going to get me 11. So it's going to be x plus 3, x plus 8 equals 0. So x is going to be negative 3, or x is going to be negative 8. You're not going to be able to see the question below. If you wanted to use quadratic formula, remember you have to make it equal 0 to start off with. So you have to do that first step anyway. Your A is 1, your B is 11, your C is 24. So plug it in. Negative 11 plus or minus the square root of 11 squared minus 4 lots of A, which was 1, and C was 24, over 2 lots of A, which was 1. Negative 11 plus or minus. Do some working out here. 11 squared, that's 121. Negative 4 times 1, negative 4. Take 96. So 121, take 96. You got 25 under the square root, which is a nice number. Over 2, you've got negative 11 plus or minus 5 over 2. So x is going to be negative 11 plus 5, which is going to be negative 6 over 2, or negative 11 take 5, negative 16 over 2. So x is going to be negative 6 over 2, negative 3, or negative 8, which is what we got before, using the proper way. Solve for x using any appropriate method, excluding this does not equal 0. So I need to make it equal 0. Opposite of positive 12x is negative 12x. And then you've still got the plus 12 on the left-hand side. So the proper way would be to remove common factors. Remove 3. You're going to have 4x left, and you're going to have 4 left. 1 and 4, 2 and 2. 2 and 2 is going to get me negative 4x, but it'd have to be negative. So you've got 3, x take 2, x take 2 equals 0. 3 cannot be equal 0. But x take 2 equals 0, so x is equal to 2. And I don't need to do it for this set of brackets because it's exactly the same. Now, quadratic formula, we had to make it equal 0 in the first place. So a is equal to 3, b is equal to negative 12, c is equal to 12. Plug it in. Negative 12 plus or minus negative 12 squared. Take 4 lots of a. C over 2a. Negative 12 is positive 12. Do the working out up the top. 144. Negative 4 times by 3 is negative 12 times by 12. It's going to be negative 144. So that cancels down to 0 at the top. Square root of 0 over 2 times by 3, 6. That square root sign doesn't need to be that long. So it's going to be 12 over 6. 12 over 6 is 2, which is exactly the same as we got the proper way. Here you're being told to use the quadratic formula. It's already written as equal to 0, so a is equal to 2, b is equal to -3, c is equal to -2, and I can use all my space to use the quadratic formula. X is equal to -b, which was -3, plus or minus the square root of -3 squared minus 4 lots of a, times by c, which was -2, over 2 lots of a, which was 2, -3, +3, over 9, -8, times by -2, +16, over 4. You got 3 plus or minus the square root of 25 over 4, working out, continues below. That's 3 plus or minus the square root of 25 is 5 over 4. So x is going to be 3 plus 5, 8 over 4, or 3 take 5, -2 over 4. X is going to be equal to 2, or -1/2. Which is -0.5. Two or -1/2. Next one here, it's already written as equaling 0. A is equal to 3, b is equal to 4, c is equal to 5. So x equals -b, which was 4, plus or minus the square root of b squared.
Battery over 90%.
Thank you. Plus or, not plus or minus, minus 4 lots of a, 3 times by c, 5, over 2 a's is 3. What is that? -4 plus or minus 16. 12 times by 5 is -60. Over 6 equals -4 plus or minus. You're trying to square root a negative number, which you cannot do. So then immediately you would write x is no real solutions. For that one, couple of worded problems. The sum of a number and its reciprocal is 2. Find the number. The reciprocal is any fraction flipped. So example of that is that. Just keep that in mind if you've never heard of the term reciprocal. So the sum means addition. Let's call x the number. The sum of a number and its reciprocal is 2. Sorry, the number is x. The sum is adding. Its reciprocal is 1 over x. And we know that the answer to that sum is 2. Find the number. That's our equation. And you're probably asking me, Mr. T, that's not a quadratic. Well, it will be when we cancel out the fraction, because the opposite of dividing by x is timesing by x. So if we times all terms by x, you're going to have x times by x is x squared. 1 over x times by x is going to leave you 1. And 2 times by x is going to give you 2x. To solve any quadratic, I need to make it equal 0. So the opposite of positive 2x is negative 2x. So you're going to have x squared. Take 2x, and then you've still got the plus 1 on the left-hand side. There you go. So I'm going to solve it the proper way. First, what numbers can I times together to get 1? 1 and 1. How do I add those together to get -2? I can take them. So you've got x take 1, x take 1 equals 0. So x is going to be equal to 1. You can do it the quadratic formula way. A equals 1, b equals -2, c equals 1. So again, only optional, if that's all you can handle. -2, plus or minus the square root of -2 squared. Take 4 lots of A, which was 1, and C, which was 1. 2 lots of A. X is equal to negative 2 is 2, plus or minus. Negative 2 squared is 4. Take 4, 0. Over 2. X is equal to 2. Over 2, x is equal to 1. Same as before. Just continuing these questions because I had a bit of noise going previously. So we have in the flag below, the area of red stripes is 700 square centimeters. Find the width of these stripes. So the first thing that we need to deal with here is acknowledging what shapes these are. This is a rectangle, and from year 7, year 8, year 9, you should have repeatedly done measurement. And you should know that the area of a rectangle is length times by width. Okay. We have 2 rectangles here, a horizontal one and a vertical one. But if we find the area of the long rectangle and the area of the short rectangle, we've actually done the square in the middle twice, so we need to get rid of that as well. So this is the thinking. The area of the long rectangle is going to be the 50 times by the x that it is wide, so it's going to be 50x. The area of the short rectangle is equal to 30 times by x. It's going to be 30x, and the area of the square in the middle that we went over twice is going to be x times by x, which is x squared. So how does that help us? Well, the area of red is going to be the long rectangle plus the short rectangle. Take away the square in the middle. Take the square in the middle that we went over twice. So it's going to be 80x take x squared. Written in the order of a quadratic, negative x squared plus 80x. Why is that useful? Because we know the area of red, according to the question, was 700. So we have a quadratic here. Negative x squared plus 80x is equal to 700. To solve any quadratic equation, it needs to equal 0. 80x, opposite of positive 700 is negative 700, equals 0. Now I want to solve this the proper way, which is by factorizing. But I can only factorize when my x squared is positive. So I need to get rid of the factor of negative 1 from everything. So the opposite of, what did I need to times negative 1 by to get 80x? It'd have to be negative 80x. What do I have to times negative 700 by? What would I have to times negative 1 by to get negative 700? Positive 700 equals 0. So that's gotten rid of negative 1 as a factor. And to get rid of this negative 1 at the front, the opposite of timesing by negative 1 is dividing by negative 1. So if I divide both sides by negative 1, I'm going to be left with x squared take 80x plus 700, and 0 divided by negative 1 is going to remain 0. Why is that helpful? Because I can do sum and product. 1 and 700 will never get me 80, but I know 10 and 70 will. Which combination? Negative 70 and negative 10 will add together to get negative 80, and also negative 10 times by negative 70 is going to be positive 700. So x, not plus, x take 10, x take 70 will equal 0. So we have x is equal to 10 or x is equal to 70. But that's not the end of it. We have to think about it a little bit because we're saying we have 2 possible options, but look at the question. X is what we just found. It's either 10 or 70, but the flag is only 50 centimeters long and 30 centimeters wide. So we have to ignore x is equal to 70 because you can't have the stripe wider than that or longer than that. So x is 10, therefore stripes are 10 centimeters wide. your answer in a sentence. Now, to show you how to do it in quadratic formula, you need the equation in that form there. So A is equal to 1, B is equal to negative 80, C is equal to 700. Plug that into the quadratic formula. X is equal to negative 8 plus or minus the square root of negative 8 squared minus 4 lots of A, which was 1, and C, which was 700, over 2 lots of A, which was 1. X is equal to negative 8 is 8 plus or minus. Oops, sorry. B is negative 80, not negative 8. So had a whole nother 0 there. Negative 80 squared is going to be 6,400. Take. Negative 4 times by 1 is negative 4 times by 700, negative 2,800 over 2. X is equal to 8 plus or minus 6,400. Take 2,800 is going to be 3,600 over 2. The square root of 3,600 is 60, so X is going to be 8 plus or minus, not 8, 80. What the heck? What the heck is wrong with me? I'm getting tired here. 80 plus or minus 60 over 2. X is going to be 80 plus 60 is 140 over 2, or 80 take 60 is 20 over 2. X could be 70 or 10, but we've already established 70 can't be, so again 10 centimeters, same as before, except the brain fart of me continually telling you that B was 8 when you can see it's 80 here, but I picked that up halfway through. So fix that up. Hypotenuse of a right angled triangle is 1 centimeter more than twice the length of the shortest side of the triangle, more than, so we're summing the shortest side of the triangle. The other side is 7 centimeters longer than the shortest side. Find the length of each side. So you need to remember right angled triangles, Pythagoras, a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. And it's always useful to draw a diagram. The hypotenuse, the longest side, find the length of each side of the triangle. So it's not specifically telling you what the unknown should be, but I'm going to make the unknown the short side. So it's going to be there. X is the short side, and then let's look at the information. The other side is 70 centimeters longer, so other is equal to x plus 7, because it's 7 centimeters longer. And the hypotenuse is 1 centimeter more than twice the length. So twice the length of the short side is 2x. 1 centimeter more, so 1 centimeter more is plus 1. So this is going to be 2x plus 1. This is going to be x plus 7. And according to Pythagoras, a squared, a was x, plus b squared, x plus 7, all squared, is equal to c squared, 2x plus 1, all squared. Expand the brackets. X plus 7 all squared, using the perfect squares law, x squared plus 14x plus 49 equals, this is a perfect squares expansion, that equal sign is fat, 2x squared is 4x squared, plus 2ab is 4x plus 1. Okay. Collect like terms. X squared plus x squared. I've got 2x squareds on the left-hand side. No other like terms to collect. 4x squared plus 4x plus 1. Collect the like terms. On the left-hand side, so the opposite of 4x plus 4x squared is negative 4x squared. So you're going to have negative 2x squared on the left-hand side. Opposite of 4x, take 4x, you're going to have positive 10x. Opposite of adding 1 is taking 1, so you're going to have plus 48 equals nothing. So to have space to do all this extra working out because I'm going to show you how to do it the proper way and the quadratic formula way. I need to move everything. So I have it equal to 0 now. Now, if I want it to do it the proper way, I need to get rid of the -2 as a factor. So -2 at the front, x squared. What I have to times -2 by to get positive 10x and -5x. What I have to times -2 by to get positive 48, -24 equals 0. Divide both sides by -2. You're going to have x squared, take 5x, take 24 equals nothing. Numbers that I multiply together. 1 and 24 will never get me 5. 2 and 12 will never get me 5, but 3 and 8 will. 3 take 8. So you're going to have, don't forget the -2 at the front, -2 bracket x plus 3, x take 8 equals 0. -2 can't be equal to 0, so ignore that. But x plus 3 is going to give you x is equal to -3. Or x take 8 is going to give you x is equal to 8. You can't have a negative length because we're talking about a triangle. So it's probably going to be that. X is equal to 8. Now the quadratic formula method, I'm going to use from there. A is equal to -2. B is equal to 10. C is equal to 48. Solving x is equal to -b, -10. Plus or minus the square root of 10 squared. Take 4 lots of a, -2, c, 48, over 2 lots of a, -2, -10, plus or minus. Working out at the top, 100. -4 times by -2. -4 times by -2. -8. -8 times by 48. 384. So you're going to have, under the square root sign, square root of 484. 2 times -2, -4. Now 484 must be a square number. It's 22. So -10 plus or minus 22 over -4. So x is going to be -10 plus 22, which is going to be 12 over -4, or -10 take 22, -32 over -4. X is going to be -3, or 8. You can't have a negative for the sides, so x must be equal to 8. So that allows us to find the sides. Short side is equal to 8 centimeters. Other side is equal to 8 plus 7, which is 15 centimeters. And hypotenuse, because it's asking to find the length of each side of the triangle, 2x plus 1, so 2 lots of 8 plus 1, 16, 17 centimeters for the hypotenuse. That's that question down. I think this is the last question. Using a table of values from x -3 to x3, draw the graph. So you're graphing y is equal to -x squared plus x take 2, and my table of values. And y -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3. Now we need to do the substitutions. So y, when x is equal to -3, is equal to -3 squared plus -3 take 2, Negative 3 squared is 9. Negative of that is negative 9. Positive times by negative 3 is negative 3, take 2. Negative 9, take 3. Negative 12, take 2. Negative 14, I believe. Negative 14. So first one down, negative 14. Draw an arrow to it if needed. Y when x is equal to negative 2 to fill in the next one. Negative 2 squared plus negative 2, take 2. Negative 2 squared is 4. Negative of that is negative 4. Negative 2, take 2. Negative 4, take negative 6. Negative 8. Negative 8. There. Arrow. Y when x is equal to negative 1. Negative 1 squared plus negative 1, take 2. Negative 1 squared is positive 1. Negative of that is negative 1. Positive, take negative plus negative 1. Negative 1, take 2. Negative 1, take 1. Negative 2, negative 4. Substitute when x is equal to 0. Negative 0 squared plus 0, take 2. You're going to have negative 2. Substitute when it's equal to 1. Negative 1 squared plus 1, take 2. Negative 1 plus 1, take 2. Negative 2. So arrow there. Arrow there. Y. When x is equal to 2, negative 2 squared plus 2, take 2. 4, negative of 4 is negative 4 plus 2, take 2. Negative 4 plus 2. That's going to be negative 4. Last one, y when x is equal to 3, negative 3 squared plus 3, take 2. 9, negative 9 plus 3, take 2. Negative 9 plus 3 is negative 6, take 2, negative 8. So I have all my coordinates that I can graph now. I need my axes. I need it to go down to negative 14, so make it really negative. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. That's negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, negative 14, one more, negative 15. Let's plot the points in red. When x is equal to negative 3, y is negative 14. Dot. When x is equal to negative 2, y is equal to negative 8. Dot. When x is equal to negative 1, y is equal to negative 4. Dot. When x is equal to 0, y is equal to negative 2. Dot. X is equal to 1, y is negative 2. Dot. X is equal to 2, y is negative 4. X is equal to 3, y is equal to negative 8. Dot. That's my quadratic right there. Do my best to draw it on this slippery screen. Do two parts. Also, quadratics are the same. are symmetrical, so I'll do a little guide dot there. There's your quadratic drawn. And I believe that is the end of the test, or the practice test for you, okay? So overall, you can see this stuff here on the right-hand side, this was all optional. This was only because I said that I'll be okay with you only using the quadratic formula to solve, if that's all you could work out. So this option here again, optional. If all you can do is quadratic formula, optional again. So I've shown both ways. These you are asked to do quadratic formula, sure, so you have to do that. This one, optional. This one, optional. Quadratic formula, if that's all you can do. Optional quadratic formula on the right. Optional quadratic formula on the right. So yeah, the test was taken like double the length of time that it probably should because of all the optional methods, but still plenty of time to do it. The only times that you don't have the optional is this because it's already null factor law and x squared is equal to k form. So hopefully that helps you out. Head to the last page. Hopefully that helps you out. And I'll see you in the next video.